Hey dudes, Merry Christmas. Welcome to Ask Tommy number 2, where I answer frequently asked questions from listeners and guests. First question: have you ever had a guest that surprised you with a similar body sense of humor that you could never see their work the same again? Oh, yeah, many, dude. Lynn Griffin, Catherine Mary Stewart, Jill Whitlow, Barbara Tyson, Allison Podbray, Sarah Rush recently. Yeah, a lot of ladies that are just so awesome, yet they have body minds. It's very hard to offend actors with humor, you know? It's an old theater trick. A lot of actors love hearing dirty jokes to break up the monotony of rehearsals or just going to dinner parties. What's the saddest part about doing great interviews with great iconic stars? Well, it's the small chance of never talking to them again, whether it's on the podcast or just off the podcast. I mean, I've established a lot of great relationships with a lot of great people, but then there's a lot of people that I just haven't had the chance to talk to again, both personally or on the podcast. I mean, it would have been great to do a couple interviews with Ed Asner, who is no longer with us. I'm glad I just got that one. PJ Souls, who I've tried to get back on many times again. Michael Berryman, who I'm going to attempt to get again. People like that. But I thank my lucky stars for the 2 interviews I've done with Gina Shaka the Go-Go's. That's a fucking phenomenal thing that just holds so dear to my heart, and it's only been a fucking year. Ever thought about interviewing someone from Cannibal Holocaust? You know, I've pondered that throughout the years, but the controversy over the animal thing has kept me away from it. I know that Carl York has done interviews on some podcasts, about his career, but I'm very reluctant. I'm very much an animal person, yet I don't want, the stink of the hardcore animal people to get angry. So otherwise, I'd rather just pass, unless I see him on a podcast where, you know, that's got a lot of cachet, a lot of followers, a lot of, you know, people who listen like myself. Maybe I would consider, interviewing him then, but. Other than that, I'm just afraid of the controversy it might spark if I put him on my podcast. What movie, TV show, or rock album celebrated a milestone anniversary this year that you wanted to do an interview for in 2023, but you couldn't do? Dude, there's tons. For movies, I wanted to chronicle this funny zombie comedy from 1983. Some people say it was 1982, but I'm sure it was 1983, called Hysterical with the Hudson brothers. Let's see. I wanted, guests from obscure horror movies from 1983, like Dogs from Hell. For TV, nobody other than Valerie Landsberg. God, I hope to get her in 2024. We've been trying to make it happen for a while. For rock albums, like I wanted one of the guys from Information Society to come on. I wanted somebody from this Canadian band Toronto. They did Hearts, What About Love Before Heart did. People like that. Connections were never made, unfortunately. But then again, you never know what's going to happen. It may happen in 2024. Who's the nicest celebrity you have ever interviewed? Too many to name, but I'll give you a few off the top of my head. Lar Park Lincoln, Ken Oland, Sean Sullivan, Susan Cowsill, Ann Cusack, Tessa Richard, the list goes on and on. I've been so lucky interviewing mostly nice people and only a couple of jerks. I am so blessed that way. I notice you interview a lot of your non-showbiz friends from your hometown. What's the incentive there? Well, in the beginning, I had trouble getting guests every day. So it got to a point where I started having my friends on. Now, not just to have them on, but also because I want to make them a part of my passion. They've loved me and they've known me for so long that I asked all my super supportive friends to come on, and most often than none, a lot of them are reluctant. But the ones that I do get on, oh, we have a blast. We have an absolute blast, and only one has told me to take the interview down. But other than that, everything has been no questions asked. What's your biggest pet peeve with all the higher profile guests that you've had? Well, when they invite me to be on their podcast on air and they never act on it, that drives me fucking crazy. I quite frankly prefer that they don't say anything on air and rather DM me. That just drives me fucking crazy. It's funny, the ones who have, though, they all do the same podcast, sobriety podcast, right? And it's pretty well known. I'm not an AA guy, so that's probably the reason why that they never roll through. Maybe they realize later, oh shit, I just forgot he doesn't do the AA thing, so that's why I'm not going to have him on. But still, I just rather them keep their mouth shut. It just pisses me off. When you make a commitment, you keep it. Scheduling is always an issue. That's always going to be a given. But fucking, just keep your word. That's just one of the fake aspects of show business I don't like, is when people don't keep their word. Do you ever believe your guests when they say they listen to the show with a mutual friend? Not really, because 9 out of 10 times it's usually an episode from the early years, that they mentioned that they listened to. And I gotta tell you, I was such a lousy interviewer at that time, and the sound was so shitty. They can't possibly do the show after hearing those, So maybe they didn't hear it at all, or maybe they just, you know, listened to a newer one, but they pretended that it was with the mutual friend because, quite frankly, I wouldn't do my own podcast if I had heard, those early episodes. There was just no fucking way. I was such a terrible interviewer at that time, you know, but I like to think I've gotten better. I'm so friggin' blessed, you know. I've gotten such better at interviewing thanks to the pandemic. The pandemic helped me a lot because more people could do the interview. After for years, a lot of people were telling me that they're going to come on and never did, but then they did during the pandemic. It's a real miracle. Are you really ticklish? Yes, I am. I love being tied up and tickled. However, like I've been saying for 5 fucking years, if you tickle me without warning, I might hit you in the groin. Please let me know so I can enjoy it. That's all I have got to say about that. You've interviewed a few 80s hair metal band members this year. What are your favorite 80s hair metal albums? Let's see. They are as followed. Number 1, Def Leppard Hysteria. Number 2, Bon Jovi Slippery When Wet. Number 3, Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood. Number 4, Out of the Cellar. And from Rat. And number 5, Skid Row's first album. Those are fucking masterpieces. Some of the best hair metal albums ever committed to recording, ever. Have you ever farted during a podcast interview? Oh, many times, but I can't remember which ones particularly. Go find that Easter egg. Do you still have a crush on movie and TV stars that you had crushes on as a child after you interviewed them? Well, if I become friends with them, no. They become like an aunt or somebody in my family. I don't enjoy seeing them naked on TV like I once did. It's just, it becomes really awkward. It really does become like a family after I do a podcast with somebody and I get to know them over time. I mean, during the holiday seasons, like now, you know, I send them Christmas cards and, we talk on the phone unrecorded, not with everybody, but certain people, you know, and it's always very communal and very intimate. It's just like, I watch their work, but, my feelings when I see them now is just changed than it did when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, let's talk about the women, for example. Oh, obviously they were sex objects to me as a kid. Saw them naked. It was jerk off fodder for me and whatnot. Now that I'm older, I'm 40 years old, and I just have a better appreciation for them as people because they've done my podcast, not once, several times in some cases. And I see them as the human being, the vulnerable person that they are, you know. And yeah, I mean, I still laugh at it if it's a comedy. I still laugh at the humor, and I laugh at them, with the humor that they project on screen. But it's just it's a different experience. You have to be there in order to understand what I'm saying. You know, it's very special. It's a very one of a kind experience, and there's quite frankly nothing like it. And finally, is there ever a day where you don't want to do Splat from the Past? Every day. However, I'd be a fucking fool to stop at this point. I am looking forward to 2024, and it's going to just keep on getting better. Amen. Well, that's Ask Tommy number 2. Merry Christmas, dudes. Later.